Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. Pow, pow, pow. My name's Suj. Starting with energy, mate. James. Starting with energy.
My name's James. Hey, anyone to think West Ham won last night?
Yeah, to be fair, that was a weird one yesterday. But yeah, we did win yesterday. You won at the weekend as well. You should be happy. Let's get into it as we do each and every week, talking about FPL, our teams, what's going on with all the other games that happened, what we're doing next, and all the rest of it. And let's start with me.
Okay, did it not go well?
Gameweek rank 5.169 million. Going badly, James.
There's only a couple of million robots ahead of you, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Incredible rubbish game week. And that's that. I literally had 3 returns this week. Marcus Rashford assist, Bruno Fernandes penalty, and Matt Target with a clean sheet. Triple City, as we all had. No one got any returns off them. Kevin De Bruyne captain. Soucek yesterday. I mean, we did give him some trouble at set pieces, and there's any moment that you'd think Soucek could go off. Nick Pope, 2-pointer. Bamford, 2-pointer. Ollie Watkins, 2-pointer. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 2-pointer. I might change my team name to 2-pointer, actually. That's what I'm going to do. So I've dropped to 1.15 million. And yeah, it is what it is. I guess there's nothing I can do about it. But I can't do anything this week now because I've been working towards game week 29. So, I can't do anything. I can make one transfer, but I can't pull the trigger on my wild card because I'm set up for game week 29. I'm going to pull the trigger in game week 30. I'm not playing any chips, so I'm literally sitting here in nothing doing. And Marcus Rashford's picked up a potential injury. It's fine. I was going to sell him for Son, I was going to sell him for Son, and I said in brackets or Bale now, and that's it. So Rashford to Son gives me another player for game week 29. Not making any changes anywhere else. The other player I want to buy is Harry Kane, but I can't buy Harry Kane unless I downgrade a player somewhere to give me the money to upgrade Calvert-Lewin, which I'm not going to do this week because I'll have to take another hit. So, yeah, meh.
Oh, well, that was a good start to the podcast, isn't it?
It just, yeah, honestly, it's just, it comes back down to, I can't do what I want to do because I've put myself in this situation through my strategy, which is adopting the strategy, which is the sensible strategy of, well, it's a sensible strategy working through the blank. Had I been bolder and just had much more of a gung-ho, fuck it, I don't care attitude, I probably would have played my wild card last week or the week before and just used my free hit to cover me off in 29. And I haven't, and I've still got my free hit, but I don't know when I'm going to use my free hit, so I don't even know what I'm doing with that. So I can't use my wild card. I'm not going to use my free hit because I've built towards 29, and I'm just sitting here with 2 back-to-back crap game weeks.
That free hit chip could yet come in very, very handy, my friend. So there has been some speculation in the media recently that because basically fans can go back into the ground from the Monday before the final game week 38, there is some speculation that midweek is currently free. It's kind of earmarked to rearranged FA Cup final postponements because that's the weekend of 37. There is some suggestion at the moment that 36 as a game week could get moved to the following midweek in between 37, 38. Or
the entire game week.
Or they move 37 into that midweek and then 36 from the previous midweek into the weekend. Now, what that will do is create some blanks and doubles. And the reason it will do that is because of the FA Cup final. We know that at least. So let's assume we work under that basis. Let's just say 36 becomes 37, 37 goes into the midweek in between. Obviously, the 2 teams that are in the FA Cup final, unless they're playing each other, is going to create 4 teams to have a blank in game week 36. They are then highly likely to have a double in 35. So double 35, then immediate blank 36. There's your potential use for the free hit if you weren't planning to use it around any problems of the Carabao Cup in game week 33. So I think it's actually it's okay at the moment to be in the position to not know, because you could, if that scenario happens, you could free hit in game week 35 into 11 players who've got a double, for example, or if you've already got good investment into those teams, you could perhaps free hit in 36 when the 4 teams don't play, which is, as it looks, is going to be very similar to obviously game week 33. So there's a couple of different options. That rumour is gathering pace. The reason it's gathering pace is obviously if they do that, that then means then every team can get fans in the ground for one home game. And there's a little bit of concern at the moment that obviously, as we kind of going back to December, as soon as you can let fans in the ground, let them in the ground, right? There's no reason to hold it back. But the fact that fans would only be able to go in to the final day of the season is causing a little bit of a sporting integrity concern. I mean, for example, look at the fixtures on the final day. Fulham are playing Newcastle. So Fulham can get 10,000 fans in the ground and need to beat Newcastle to stay up. That's going to help, isn't it? So they want to make sure that Newcastle got 10,000 fans for the home game before. That looks like it's going to happen in some form or another, actually, as it stands. That said, we'll probably get there and it will get pushed back and we can't have any fans anyway, and it won't matter. But you should be aware of that possibility at the moment.
Yeah, cool. I just, it doesn't fill you with excitement when you're playing catch up. I'm coming from behind to use that chip, whereas I would have liked to use it to get ahead. But it does open up a few doors, I think, from an FPL point of view, because I'm not the only one in and around that area. There's plenty of good, engaged FPL managers who are having seasons. For example, Rashford to Son was a very straightforward move for me before. Now I feel like, you know what? Fuck it, why not go to Bale and have a bit more fun with it? You know, why not take that slightly riskier pick? And if he does go off, the highs are going to be so much higher than if Son goes off, for example. And so, you know what?
Why?
Less ownership.
Okay, that's fair.
So it's more about, it's really down to the less ownership element of it. It's not because I like Bale more than Son or anything. I mean, to be fair, Son served me well over the years, but the ownership is what it comes down to.
Okay, how many points are you actually on? 40?
For the week?
40?
40 would be nice. 39 minus 4.
And I'm minus 4. And who's your free city? De Bruyne and...
De Bruyne captain, the Ginger Ninja. Come on, Kevin De Bruyne, Cancelo and Diaz.
Okay, so I thought your team was just full of 2 points. There's a few 1 points in there, isn't there?
yeah, a couple.
I'm on 53 and barely clinging onto a green arrow, which is obviously dependent on...
With Harry Kane?
Yeah, with Harry Kane, yeah.
Oh.
So I've had quite a painful week from that perspective. Harry's and Sonny's assist have saved it a little bit. I've got Gundogan, Diaz and Stones going into Wednesday night. So whether I'm green or not is dependent on the performance of or lack of performance of those three. Yeah, Harry Kane, 19-pointer, assist for Sonny.
It's Wednesday. Why did I think the game was tonight? I kept thinking in my head the game was tonight. It's tomorrow. Oh, well, there we go.
Clean sheet for Ezri Konsa, which easily could have been a 21-pointer, like Craig Dawson could have been a 21-pointer in fairness. And 8 points from Sam Johnston has made it a decent return of 53, actually. So you'd hope the Free City guys can take me above 60. And obviously, that if Gundogan does well on Wednesday, if he starts and was to get an 8-pointer or something, then suddenly I'm looking at going to be excess of 70 or something. So let's see how it goes. There's a game to go, but it kind of, in a weird way, it feels more like a quarter of the game week to go, because most of us have probably got
so many players.
Quarter investment of our squads built up in that game. So still a little bit to go. I am currently 306,000. So it's about 12,000 rise at the moment.
Decent. I say decent. It's acceptable. Have you made any transfers yet this week?
No chance.
Okay. And your plan is to try and roll into game week 29 so that you've got 2 frees and the option of taking an additional hit into 29?
Yeah, I've got 8 for 29. So the current thinking in my strategy is -4 to get 3 players in game week 29. I'd rather make that decision near the end of those that I'm interested in. Tottenham, Fulham, Leeds. I have no major want to get assets in from those teams this particular game week. It's also been left on the potential prospect of Villa Everton, which I presume now it's Tuesday morning. I presume that's now not going to be in game week 28. However, it could still be very soon. It could be in game week 30, for example. So, whereas everybody else is in a rush to sell Dominic Calvert-Lewin, as I said to you on the Patreon pod yesterday, captaincy is going to be very open this week. I might even stick the armband on him, actually. It looks a difficult week for captaincy, and I've seen signs in Burnley recently that tells me they might be conceding goals, actually. So I might end up going down that route. So I think I'm probably going to roll this week, not overly happy with the team, but then happy with what I can put together for 29 and 30. This feels like, I know the Always Cheating boys were talking about this on their podcast. It feels like almost a forgotten game week, this. Because we had double,
you're right.
Possible double, but we'll worry about it if or when it happens. The known blank 29, then 30 to then prep for wildcard 31. This is almost a forgotten game week, and looking at the fixtures, I can see why, because it's rough, right? So, I mean, captaincy talk at the moment.
Rough in what sense? I mean, Manchester City have got Fulham. Manchester United have got
You fucking
West
watched
Ham
Fulham lately, mate.
Yeah, it's true. To be fair, you're right. But Manchester United have got West Ham. I mean, to be fair, even that, I still have it in my mindset that you're looking at that they should be winnable games for them. Aston Villa away at Newcastle, it isn't too bad a fixture, but then Leeds, who a lot of us have assets from because of the 29, have Chelsea at home, which is looking very tough at the moment, the way they're playing. Yeah, you're right. It is a mixed bag there.
Captaincy, from what I hear being spoken about, I think the majority of people who still own Bruno Fernandes are going to captain Bruno Fernandes, in spite of the fact it's obviously a tough fixture. And I understand that, because if in doubt, just go with the most consistent player in the game, right?
And you know he's on penalties, right? So
there's a lot of people talking about Kane and that. It's fucking North London derby, and I know he has a good record scoring in them, but you don't feel like he'll go off. Yeah, I fancy Harry to score in any game, obviously, but he's not really in my thinking to captain him this weekend as it stands. So it's quite open. And therefore, we've had a lot of chat on our Patreon pods recently about should versus want. This is a good week to go with a captaincy that's the want. Rather than
I'm going to get myself an asset from the Wolves Liverpool game, because if I get an asset from the Wolves Liverpool game and captain them for the Monday night, there's zero chance that my FPL captain can fuck up my weekend.
Well, to be honest, I wouldn't rule out captain Salah. Personally, I'd just look at it and go, Wolves Liverpool Monday night, with the way the two of them are playing, that's really likely to be low scoring at the moment, and he's still the most likely scorer on a football pitch for Liverpool. They win 1-0. They win 1-0 or so, and he's easily looking at a 10-11 pointer possibly.
Whenever the tide turns so heavily against a player as good as Mo Salah, like one of these premiums, I get nervous. I always feel like, are you sure you want to... everybody wants to sell him in mass droves because he'll come back and hurt you. So I always get wary when people sell players with that volume who are that good in terms of Salah, just because of a few bad results. So we'll see.
It relates to Bruno, isn't it? A lot of people sold Bruno this week. I was one of them. And I know exactly what I said on Friday's podcast. Look, Bruno could get a penalty at the Etihad and get a 10-11 pointer. It's as simple as
30 seconds in, you're thinking, here we go.
It's easy to say in hindsight, don't sell this player, yada, yada, yada. Whenever you sell a Bruno, a Salah, or a Kane, or someone like that, of course they can hurt you immediately. It's about what potentially you can do elsewhere. Bruno owners who have kept will be very, very happy this week, because like I said, he's almost definitely going to be the most captained again this week, and you're going to be in a strong position with him, I think. But it's a tough game. Game.
Very, it will be. Looking forward to it on Mother's Day this week. I was moaning about the fact that North London Derby was on Mother's Day, and I didn't even twig our game straight after that as well. So not only do I need 4:30 to 6:30 off, I need 7:15 to 9:15 off as well. So she's going to be getting a fat Mother's Day lunch. Hopefully comatose her for the rest of the day. I'll feed her until she falls asleep. Job done. Let's talk about some of these games. First up, you mentioned the leaky Burnley 1 against a Arsenal 1.
Leaky's harsh. Leaky's harsh.
Yeah, but they're leaking goals, right? They're not getting smashed, but they are leaking the odd goal here or there.
They obviously took a beating at Tottenham in game week 26. To be honest, they should have beat Leicester, but for a very good performance from Kasper Schmeichel in the second part of their double. And Arsenal could have been out of sight in this game by the time 1 o'clock come round before the calamitous equaliser, which had me squealing like a pig. You know, when involuntary noises come out and you can't explain it, it's like that's somebody else's noise. That was me when that goal went in. And then Arsenal had countless chances towards the end of the game. I just feel Burnley are in a phase at the moment where they're trying to press. And if they get it wrong, I've obviously got it right on the goal, although I feel like it's more Arsenal error than particularly good Burnley defending. You can't pass the ball at someone's stomach when they're 6 yards out from goal. Xhaka should play the ball first time into the players in the right-hand channel, but gets dubious about it because it's on his right foot. He should just play the pass. He should be good enough to do that. But I feel like they're in a pressing phase at the moment. That's what they're trying to do. And in the start of the second half, they did it with more aggression and did it a lot better. But when we think about Burnley, we associate them with being awkward to play against, the second balls, tight defensively, all those things. At the moment, teams are countering on them quite well, and it's causing them some problems. If you can get running at Burnley's back four, like in the position Willian got in for Arsenal's goal, you've won half the battle. They're in trouble. Because if you start moving them about, technically and individually, they're not actually that good. Collectively, they're more than the sum of their parts, if you will. So just feel there's an openness about them at the moment, possibly, that we don't associate. Now, it could be with what Fulham have been doing, that they go, well, shit, we're actually still in this. I think they're 4 points clear at the moment, Burnley, and go to the fundamentals, which obviously makes them extremely difficult to play against. But there's certain things defensively that I'm not as happy with them that I normally would be. We got a glimpse of a really good partnership with Vidra Wood when they 1-2'd for each other to set up the chance for Chris Wood. I think generally speaking, bar Nick Pope, we wouldn't really have any interest in Burnley players now. And the interest in Nick Pope would more be about holding him rather than actually going and buying him. I think if you were buying a goalkeeper now, you would go somewhere else.
Yeah. Did I just disappear there?
Briefly.
Yeah. I literally, Zoom just shut down on me. And I was like, what's happened here? And I just popped back up and you were happily talking about goalkeepers. Yeah, Nick Pope is my goalkeeper. And I'd probably end up with a Martinez, but I'll just be doing it after next week, to be honest with you.
I've got Ben Mee. He's one of the ones that's definitely going to be expendable for myself. Arsenal would...
Lowton for me won't, to be fair, but then Lowton's 4.4 million that I bought him for, so bench fodder.
Arsenal started this really well. Saka was great in the opening stages, always carries a threat for them. And it just looked like they were going to win the game comfortably. I was actually in position to go, if this goes 2-0, I'm turning it off. I'm done watching this. There's nothing else to see. And then obviously the goal came from nowhere. And then Burnley had a really good spell actually in the second half. And Arsenal finished like a train. They obviously should have had a penalty for the handball against Charlie Taylor.
Yeah, very obvious.
Then ended up with a penalty for one and a red card where it's hit his shoulder. It's VAR. I'm only shouting it out because that's VAR actually doing the right thing. Although quite our VAR doesn't do the right thing on the incident with Peters and the handball originally when Peters has got his arm out. I'm really not sure. And they had chances to win it, like with Ceballos hitting the post, Pepe missing his kick. They should have won the game, really. And I think he's kind of... Adam Pritchard's coming on Clash of Correspondence on Thursday. It's kind of a perfect summary of their season, that in flashes, it's there, but they haven't been taking chances when they've been in control of games this year. And they're in danger of this season... I mean, in theory, their season could finish in the next 2 weeks. And then that brilliant run they've got for the run-in becomes almost of no interest because you think, are they on the beach? Or particularly if they're still in Europe. You think, oh, geez. I think, say they lose to Tottenham and West Ham in the next 2 game weeks and then go through in Europe. I'm not sure the idea of wanting to get their assets in 31 is quite so appealing. Surely all the eggs in that case would go in Europa League. Top 4's beginning to look harder by the week for them. But I still think because of that
top
running,
4 they won't get, mate. I don't think they will.
I think in that running, they're capable of putting 5-6 wins together on the bounce, actually. And I just, the small bit of me thinks that still gives them a slight chance. It's obviously very difficult for them.
Yeah, it's tired. I think with Arsenal assets, from a personal point of view, it's Saka and Tierney that appeal primarily because it's their price. Saka at 5.3 is very cheap. Tierney at 5.2 is also decent value. And with the likes of Aubameyang, who are obviously more expensive, I don't want to put that much money and faith in Arsenal. I don't mind having a 5.3 million Saka bet, but I'm not going to put an 11 million Aubameyang bet on the table in my FPL team at the moment. I'd like to, but I'm not comfortable doing it. If we come back to, let's have a little bit of fun here. Aubameyang for the last 7 or 8 games of the season would be fun, especially if he goes off, but I'm not going to make that bet. No chance. So Saka and Tierney are the 2 for me that I'm keeping an eye on.
I think that bet can be made now if you want to. If you're sitting there with the money in the bank, I think you probably need to be in a position where maybe you've already sold Bruno and you've got 4 or 5 million sitting in the bank. I think that gamble can be taken now. Aubameyang will give Tottenham trouble at the weekend. There's no doubt about that. The West Ham fixture doesn't appeal. Then it's Liverpool in 30. And I think it's that what you think. It's 3 game weeks. So the price of the player doesn't really matter so much. Do you think over the next 3 game weeks, Aubameyang will outscore Saka? I think when you think about it logically, the conclusion would probably be on that, yes. So if the value of the player, we know that you shouldn't really be paying that money for Aubameyang. But if it's short term, knowing that you were wildcarding in game week 31 and can either keep or then get away, it's not the worst shout. I'm telling you, he will give Tottenham problems at the weekend with his pace. I do not really want to see him running an Alderweireld, or if Auria's not back and he's drifting.
It's funny that you picked
left side against Doherty. I'm fucked that, man.
I was going to say, it's funny that you picked a centre back in Alderweireld because you don't have a right back that he can run against, so he's got open space there. Aubameyang's one that I'm actually interested in, looking forward to what they do next season, because I think he could end up coming in quite cheap next season and be a little bit of a tempter for people, maybe 9.5 or 10 million.
Until he ends this season as the highest goal scorer of 10 game weeks, which
it goes mental.
I wouldn't rule it out. There's been slow signs that it's coming back. I mean, even on this goal here, I mean, James Tarkowski does his best Trent Alexander-Arnold impression by going and hiding behind his fullback.
No, but the finish was good. Wrong foot of the keeper and stuff.
He takes the goal well, yeah.
Let's talk about Sheffield United 0, Southampton 2. JWP comes in with maximum bonus points and a penalty, but and Che Adams, I'll give him credit as much as I give him grief.
Great goal.
He did score a good goal. Whether or not he would have even been in that position had Danny Ings not been injured, and Danny Ings looks like he's out for a little while now, doesn't he?
It's the same for James Ward-Prowse with the penalty. Presumably, Danny
it's true.
Would have taken it. Danny Ings apparently probably going to be out till after the international break, is the word. Which, from a Southampton perspective, obviously only leaves him out from tonight, Wednesday night, and the game against Brighton on Sunday. The player that I really want to highlight for Southampton is Nathan Tella.
Tell us all about it.
I shall.
Boom, boom.
That's going to be the pod title, isn't it? How am I going to put that into one word? Tell us all about it.
That's the one.
I might be a bit long. 4.3 million midfielder in FPL. Played right through the middle. Made his first start against Leeds in game week 25. Boy's got his explosive pace and he likes to run with it. He's a talent. Now, Che Adams has been a bit out of form, so the fact that Adams has actually scored here probably downplays the idea of Tella. But 4.3 million, I think he's one where if you're free hitting in game week 29, he might not be a bad shout, you know. And I think it is
just for this week. And
no, it's not.
This week's City, right? This week's Brighton.
It's not specifically for this week. My thinking on that is it's Brighton next. Then they blank. So if you're free hitting in 29, it's obviously not a problem. Then there's Burnley, West Brom, Crystal Palace. and you've got the rearranged game with Tottenham, presumably to go into 32. Now, if they beat Bournemouth in the Cup, that's probably going to be a single game. But then it could also create a double with, say, Burnley against Palace in 30 or West Brom and Palace in 31, which would be really attractive. So I kind of like to keep Southampton assets on side in my mind at the moment. I mean, if you're sitting there with a Danny Ings, obviously, like sell ahead of the weekend, there's not much doubt about it. But I think if you've been in there and you've gone in this position with your James Ward-Prowses or your Vestergaards, for example, hold on for the minute if you can. They're a good one to be, if you're not free hitting in 29, to be potentially leaving their assets on the bench because of the run afterwards. So it's a really short, sharp run. And obviously, look, if you get him in and it doesn't work, he's a 4.3 million midfielder. Just put him on the bench.
Bench fodder.
So that's why I highlight him as a really interesting option, because I think he's going to put the pressure on. I would expect him to start against Brighton this weekend. And I think he's potentially a really, really interesting option. I wouldn't personally be going to buy Southampton assets this weekend in my situation, because I'm not free hitting in 29. But I think, as I said, for those who are on that route, Southampton are worth looking at this week, actually.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other one that I would throw in there, again, Fraser Forster played, kept a clean sheet. And at 4 million, I can see him being my backup goalkeeper when I do pull the trigger on my wild card. Literally not going to waste the transfer getting him in now, but on wild card, assuming he keeps his place against City and they don't get a spanking, which Southampton can do sometimes. Not wanting to remind Saints fans that, apologies. Fraser Forster will be my backup goalkeeper.
To bring it up.
Okay. So yeah, I think Fraser Forster's definitely on the radar.
Once you get a 4.0 first choice goalkeeper, if you're on wildcard, that player's coming in.
Bang. Job done.
Simple as that.
Really. Simple as that, yeah.
Yeah, anybody who was wildcarding now or is thinking to him 31, if he's still in the team, then yeah, absolutely. You can't look beyond that. Even if it gets to 4.1, 4.2, you're probably still going there.
Yeah. Sheffield United, we're not looking at from an FPL point of view. Nothing to see here, really.
It's just really disappointing that after quite a heroic display against Villa, that this was so flat. I mean, Southampton probably should have won by more if they'd taken the counter-attacking opportunities properly with final pass overdoing it and stuff. Really disappointing. If there's a criticism of Chris Wilder, and we spoke about this when we've had Tomo FPL Blade on COTCs, with Jagielka's suspension on top of Basham, Egan, O'Connell, obviously well documented being out, there was a lot of suggestion in the build-up that he would change the system and go with a 4. I thought it would probably be a diamond formation, actually. But whenever the opportunity has arisen for them to change the system, he's never done it. He always starts the game in that basically 3-5-2. And yet, so often, they finish games in a back 4 where he likes to withdraw one of the centre halves when they're chasing the game. I would have liked to have seen him try it as a back 4, personally. They know that the game is up and it's all about prepping for next season now for them.
I missed this next game. Aston Villa 0, Wolves 0. No, it doesn't sound. I don't feel like I missed anything in particular.
You missed some incredible chances in a game that didn't overly deserve incredible chances. Watkins hit the bar. Ezri Konsa hit the bar.
Yeah, I did see on Twitter.
I'm not saying I own both
Ollie
of them.
Watkins has a bit of a relationship with the bar.
Ezri Konsa missed another great chance near the end. Guess whose shot got saved the first time round? Yep.
Ollie Watkins.
So I see a lot of concern about Watkins, but I mean, Newcastle away this week, he ain't getting nowhere with them playing 29 as well. So my original intention was obviously to add a third Villa player this week. And if by chance that the double dropped, which we now don't expect with Everton in 28, then I would add a third because of the 29 fixture as well. I think I would just go to Grealish if he's back fit. None of the others have stepped up to really impress me enough. The likes of Bertrand Traore, El Ghazi in the team, then out the team is really off-putting. And I've got Areola, so I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I realise Martinez is the best goalkeeper in the game, but that feels a bit sideways to me at the moment. I can't see the want to do that. So ironically, if he was back fit, I would just go straight to Grealish, I think, in that case. But I think it's more likely that's it. I'm just going to go Konsa Watkins for these 3 games before a wild card. None of the others have stepped up to really impress me. El Mohammadi is on the brink of losing his place because Matty Cash, although probably not going to make this week, has got every chance of making the Tottenham game, which would be really annoying for those who've bought El Mohammadi in for this little run. And when Cash is fit, there's no doubt he will come straight back into that team. Wolves only carried a threat.
I have a Villa dilemma. I talked at the start of the show about how Rashford to Son or Rashford to Bale was a very easy move for me. I did last week have in the back of my mind 2 eyes on where Jack Grealish was in terms of fitness, because Rashford to Grealish gives me enough money to turn Calvert-Lewin into Harry Kane. So if I knew Jack Grealish was going to be fit, that would be a double move that I would make straight away to give me 2 extra players for Game Week 29. So we'll be keeping an eye on Friday if Jack Grealish looks like he's got a chance. And even if he's on the bench, I may just make that move because it allows me to upgrade Calvert-Lewin to Kane. Yeah.
He's down to 20% ownership, Jack Grealish, and a lot of that will obviously be dead. He's not going to be in a lot of live ownership. So, I mean, his effective is probably going to be a lot less than that. It could be a brilliant little differential for these couple of weeks if he's back fit. Honestly, Newcastle, Tottenham, Fulham. Imagine if the double gets dropped in there and Dean Smith says he's fit. People won't hesitate, I think, to look at getting him back in, actually, ironically, which is never something you really want to do. You never really want to buy a player as soon as they come back from injury. But I think that speaks a lot for what Villa have done in his absence. They have missed him. They scored 2 goals in the 4 games without. It doesn't give you any great enthusiasm for them. For Wolves, we're nearing the game week 31 switch of fixtures for them, and for those wildcarding, we've highlighted Fulham, Sheffield United, Burnley, West Brom, Brighton, Tottenham, Everton, Man United is their final 8 games. I mean, Tottenham, Man United, imagine if they're in Europa League final, might be putting out reserve teams as well. It's a really good run, and I can't believe this, but Connor Cody has jumped right to the top of my queue of players interested in 4.8.
Are they going to reclassify him as a striker?
No, mate. 4.8 million. When you watch Wolves on set pieces, and it's interesting, Bradley Parker he says he doesn't attack defensive set pieces well, despite the perception that he does. But on attacking free kicks and corners, he does. It almost beggars belief that he never went up for set pieces before.
Yeah.
No. He looks.
Weirdness.
It's like he did it for England, and he scored once for England. He nearly scored twice, and it was like near I went, I hadn't thought of that. let's stick you up for. And I mean, he should have got at least one at the weekend. And I don't. In terms of trying to buy a defender for attacking output in FPL, generally we're going to look at the fullbacks and stuff. But with Wolves, he's worth saying, one, there's a consistency of knowing he'll play, where around you've got kind of Saiss, Bolly, Kilman, then Donker's playing there. So there's basically 5 from 3, and Cody, he's always going to play, you would think, unless he has a severe loss of form, which looked, after they lost to West Brom in January, looked like that might actually come round. Semedo, Johnny don't threaten the attacking returns of, dare I say it, Doherty has done in the past. So Cody at 4.8, I can't believe it, but he might be an interesting option. Never had a shot on target in the Premier League till the goal against Man City at the week. And yet he should have had 3 goals over the last game week. Yeah. And I would favour him over Saiss currently, whereas always I would have rather just taken a chance on Saiss in the past because of what I said about those other available players. Willy Bolly's been on the bench for the last couple, and I feel like he could come back in at any time. Now, I think the first choice 3 would be that Bolly comes in for Dendoncker and Dendoncker goes into midfield is the most likely. But I wouldn't have the security to give you an answer on that at the moment. Anyway, this is more a conversation for when we get to game week 31.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, this is a wild card conversation in terms of Wolves.
Cody is very much added to that list. I think he's probably gone to the top of interest from defensive players. Pedro Neto at 5.7 in midfield is an obvious interest. It's just, I know that I'll be scratching up my face quite a lot if I have a Wolves attacking player. It's generally how I feel at the moment. But that might feel different come 31. And to wildcard into him wouldn't be the worst thing to do. To be honest, even more so if he has a couple of blanks beforehand, Pedro Neto.
Yeah. Brighton 1, Leicester 2. If, and I say this very if Brighton get relegated, they will only have themselves to blame. They'll only have themselves to blame.
Yes.
Just looking at the table, I mean, they're level on points with Fulham, albeit a game in hand. Like, it just beggars belief that every time every time they get out, they get sucked back in. But they suck themselves back in. 3 defeats on the bounce now for Brighton. I just look at it and I'm like, you know what? I've been there with West Ham in that 42-point season where too good to go down, too good to go down, too good to go down. When you get to the end of it, you just got to look in the mirror and be like, fuck, we fucked this. But I still think they'll be all right. I'll be honest with you. But again, having the lead and then throwing it away and walking away with nothing.
I think they'll be all right because as kind of part proven here in this game against Leicester, like they can beat these sides.
Yeah,
like you in a way, you've got more faith in them to do it than the others. The really scary bit for Brighton now is they had a great run, like when they beat Liverpool, Leeds and Tottenham, and felt like they were away from it. Now they've dropped back into it after a good run of fixtures. And it's worth saying they've got a good 2 fixtures now, which are crucial. Southampton and Newcastle. They've got to be taking, I've got to win at least one of them, really. Because what comes afterwards is pretty scary. United, Everton, Chelsea in the 3 games afterwards. Then there's Sheffield United. The final 5, Leeds, Wolves, West Ham, Man City and Arsenal. Doesn't look overly attractive either. They've got the toughest run overall of those sides left at the bottom, I think. Next 2, absolutely crucial. They were in a position of comfort. It was nice to see them take a big chance, but then it fell to an experienced player, is what people will tell me in Adam Lallana. And I kind of felt that they were in relative control of the game. Yet by the end, unusually for them, it was fair to say that Leicester won. There wasn't a lot in it, but by the time the end came round, it was no surprise, actually. In terms of FPL perspective for Brighton, I would forget all them attacking players because it will drive you absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I think, to
even
be honest,
Lallana, to be honest with you, because it was on top of the goal, he did have a couple of other chances that and shots, and he was getting into the box. But even Lallana, it really feels like a 1-week punt when you get to 29 for Newcastle because they've got a horrible run afterwards.
Well, it would be that. Yeah, either for 3 hitters in 29 or for the 31 wild cards, you get one in, but it's Man United afterwards in 30. So you probably need to get a player in that you're going to be understanding you're going to leave on the bench the week after, most likely. Them attacking assets would not interest me at all. Joel Veltman is now really interesting at right back, 4.3 million. It looks like Tariq Lamptey was originally a 1-2 week hamstring strain. He's going to have turned into 6 months. Apparently his season is likely to be over. They just can't get him back fit. Such a shame, especially hamstring injuries for someone who's so rapid. It's a little bit concerning, actually, for his future. But Joel Veltman's actually playing really well at right back, and there's every case for going him over Dunk. I think if it's money, no object, you still pay the extra for Dunk if you're interested because of that aerial threat at set pieces. But Veltman at 4.3 offers a nice alternative. And of course, if you're then planning to bench in 30, it's probably a bit easier to go with someone like Joel Veltman, actually. They're the only 2 for me at the moment. Sanchez, who I've been a little bit critical of, what is he doing on that goal at the end? I mean, not only does he miss the cross, but he goes with it with an open palm. Even if he made contact, he wasn't going to go anywhere.
He reminded me of the way that Roberto for us tried to make a save a couple of seasons ago, and not good. Are you interested in buying any Leicester?
No, none whatsoever, personally. I know there's some frustration for those who took a bit of gambles on people like Pereira and Castagne because they've been conceding the odd goal in games, which I don't think's to be overly unexpected considering the upheaval they've had defensively. They're definitely better for having Fofana back. And obviously, if you've got those assets like Pereira, Sheffield United at home next, you're definitely playing them. And there are good fixtures. I mean, particularly their next 4 home fixtures, actually, are Sheffield United, West Brom, Crystal Palace and Newcastle. And the next 4
you've missed out Manchester City in there.
That's easy to miss out. That's because
I get it.
That's because of my spreadsheet is such a dark colour. I just missed it out.
Yeah.
All right, other than Manchester City.
But that's the same for everybody.
Well, let's say for 31 wildcarders then, in 32 is West Brom, 33 is Palace, 35 is Newcastle. That's gonna, when it comes around, is gonna really interest people.
And the away fixtures, Southampton, who they beat a little while ago.
Yeah, I can't remember
quite a high score. So Leicester definitely post wildcard just as Wolves, maybe we're just going to be a team full of Midlands players when we come to 31 wildcard.
I like to shout out another cheap player. I like the performance of the Portuguese lad Tavares, 4.5 million midfield, but would prefer, if you were punting that way, I would prefer to go for Nathan Tella at the moment, personally. Tielemans' assist for Iheanacho's goal was,
put it on the money.
No look, and the weight of the pass. It's not so much the pass, it's the weight. Any slower, Dunk gets it. Any faster, goalkeeper gets it. Absolutely brilliant. And to be fair to Iheanacho, his little darting movement and then the finish, brilliant. We've never questioned him, Iheanacho, on his finishing, I don't think, generally.
No, I've said plenty of times I'd have him at West Ham. I like Iheanacho.
I think where he really struggles is when he plays up front on his own. And I think being paired with Vardy at the moment is actually doing him good. Whereas conversely, for Vardy, he's better on his own. It's almost like Iheanacho, because Iheanacho's so high, defenders know, we've got to deal with two players. I think fullbacks are a little bit more cautious, and it actually eliminates some of Vardy's space in behind. He's the one, ironically, who doesn't feel involved at the moment, whereas Iheanacho sort of does. So if you're fitting 1 week punt for Jamie Vardy at the weekend, you've got my blessing. But if it's a 1 week punt, I'd just as likely go Iheanacho, I think.
West Brom Newcastle, we're moving into Sunday now. This game got dogs abuse on Twitter.
No, it wasn't that bad. What was bad about it was the quality of the game was bad. I've not really sold it here, have I? And the final pass, so often for both teams, like final decision making when you had a good chance, particularly some of Newcastle's actually in the first half, but then West Brom even more so in the second half. West Brom will feel like they probably should have won the game, but neither side particularly did, in my opinion. Sam Allardyce said prior to their Brighton fixture, they had to take 6 points from the next three. They've got 4. So he's kind of told everyone what the story is. They've got Palace away this weekend. I'm not joking. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they go there and win, honestly. But can't see them getting out of trouble, even if they did go to Palace and win at the weekend. No interest in them at all. I've got Johnston, and I'll play Johnston again this weekend. But I imagine on the 31 wildcard, he'll probably go for me. And I've got no interest in the rest. Diane is a handful, but a little bit clumsy, and he's missed a couple of big chances over this week or so. I think from the 3 home games to not get an attack in return, if you're on, you're probably a little bit disappointed with that. And after Palace, then they're walking into 2 of the next 3, Chelsea away, Leicester away. You don't want these sort of players anymore, I don't think. So unfortunately, no interest in them. Maitland-Niles, OOP, defensive. If you fancy him for clean sheets, like you may well do this weekend. Like if you had Maitland-Niles now, I'd play him this week away to Palace. Correct. Personally. But otherwise, these guys I can't see it coming around where they're going to be of interest again, personally. Newcastle.
But they're all friends now at Newcastle. That's the main thing, isn't it? They've all kissed and made up and hugged and all the rest of it.
A little bit, but this is missed opportunity, really. I mean, as I said, final pass them chances. Fraser, Joe Linton, all guilty of it in the first half. It was Willock basically at the point of the diamond, and the reason I thought it would be Joe Willock was because he's the one who has the fitness levels and the drive to go and press and also carry the ball in that position as well. Because we spoke a lot about Almiron's pressing, but he actually carries the ball long distances for Newcastle as well. He would be of no interest to me, Joe Willock, in spite of price, 4.7 million. Honestly, again, I'd rather take a punt on Nathan Tella at the moment. If you're sitting there with a hole where you want someone for 28 and 29, he wouldn't be the worst punt. Joe Willock, 4.7. The problem is, I think it would work fine if they had Wilson and St. Maximin or / Almiron ahead of it. But with Joe Linton as kind of the right side forward and Ryan Fraser's the left side forward, let's be honest, Ryan Fraser hasn't played well for 2 years. Then I just worry for goals on them. Like, you ain't leaving Emi Martinez out this week, are you? I just don't see the goals in them. And their fixtures are all right. Like Villa at home.
Are they? Villa haven't been playing particularly well, but they're still creating chances and are decent.
A Villa without Grealish it should be a fixture they should be targeting to win, in my opinion.
No, but if you ask me, Villa are a better team than Newcastle.
Well, obviously.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay, that's a fair point. Most of the teams that we're going to talk about are a better team than Newcastle, but Villa,
obviously,
Brighton, will create chances against Aston Villa. Tottenham, Burnley, stubborn defensively, West Ham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Leicester City. And then you're into the last 2 games of the season, which is an already relegated Sheffield United. It wouldn't surprise me if Fulham are clear of Newcastle by the time you get to that last game of the season.
This is kind of the point. For Newcastle, they need to do something now. Because the fixture run from sort of 32 onwards, I mean, you could argue from 30
from
onwards.
30.
So it's now. That's what I'm saying. I've got to be targeting to beat Villa this week. Can't just keep looking at draw, be all right? When the team behind you is going to places like Anfield and winning. So Villa, we'll get onto that. Villa is a game they've got to look at it and think they need to win the game. And if they're in a position with 15 minutes to go and it's level, they should throw the kitchen sink to try and win the game. That's my opinion, because they're going to run out of them. Brighton the week after.
The kitchen sink is injured, James, just like everybody else. This is the problem where you look at it and you think, let me go for it.
The kitchen sink.
Where's my striker, Callum Wilson? Not available. Where's Almiron?
The kitchen sink is available for them in the final 15 minutes of a football match, and it's Andy Carroll. And and I realised they've obviously changed under Graham Jones with what he's doing with the coaching and stuff, and they don't really want to go that way. But I'm telling you, if you're 1-1 with 15 minutes to go, stick him on and don't be shy about it. And then it's about second balls, because Tyrone Mings will give Andy Carroll a proper battle. But it's about second balls and then getting in around the penalty box. Newcastle don't have the creative players, bar an over-the-top ball from John Joe Shelvey, to actually open up teams at the moment. And with respect to them, I genuinely still believe if they'd not had these 3 injuries, they would have won this game yesterday, and they would have more points, and I would feel more confident about them staying up. The problem is, by the time these 3 guys are back, they might be in the bottom 3, and then they've got really difficult fixtures. That's the problem. So, I mean, just in trouble. There's no arguing it. Most people listening right now, I bet, would say, I think Newcastle will go down, would be what most people would say.
They're in trouble. I don't know if I'd say they're going to go down, but they are definitely in trouble. And a team that are down there, but we're all slowly and surely falling in love with, is Fulham. You did call it, and I think as much as you called it, a lot of people did say, look, Fulham playing, they're going to give Liverpool a game. They have the second best defensive record this year behind Manchester City, although the way City are now conceding goals, maybe they'll overtake City in terms of defensive record very soon. I honestly saw the starting lineup for Liverpool and thought, oh well, they're concentrating on the Champions League now. I understand they got injuries, but I just thought, oh yeah, Fulham are not going to be scared. Fulham are just not going to be scared.
I didn't see the Liverpool team sheet till about 20 minutes after it was announced, because I was actually in a perverse. I was quite enjoying West Brom Newcastle because there was a lot of tension on it, even if the quality was bad. And I saw the team, and then we start looking down at literally Alisson. You're going Williams, Phillips, Williams, and I don't even know if I want to fucking look at the rest of this. My goodness!
And even the top of the pitch as well in terms of Salah. There wasn't Firmino or what have you. So
no, I'd said on the Patreon pod we did on Friday that I thought it was most likely that Firmino would be the one that missed out. Actually, they didn't even bring him on, did they? I don't think so. From memory,
no.
Jota. The key with Jota is Jota's a really good pressing footballer, and he's got energy about him, and I think that's why he's thought, oh God, I've got to put him in the team immediately. And look, there's games now where there's nice spacing where they can build up his fitness, and I think getting him into the team is going to be a priority, which, come the other side of the international break, could make him an interesting FPL prospect. For those 3 hitting in 29, I mean, look, he's playing against his old team in the week. You know how these stars get aligned sometimes. But defensively, I saw the team and I thought, whereas I'd said on Friday, I wouldn't be surprised if Fulham go there and win. I actually saw the team and then thought, I think
Fulham are going to win it. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. But then let's not overemphasize that it's all down to Liverpool being flaky. Fulham were good.
At half time, to be honest, just before Lamina scored, I think the majority of us watching this game were like, how are they not winning? It wasn't just a case of even just chances. They played the better football. They defended properly. They just, from back to front, they looked better than Liverpool. It's not a joke. But where they kept doing Liverpool was the same ball all the time. What they do is they'd suck them in. Liverpool are too frightened to press. And then when there was just extra time on a ball, Bosch, over the top, Ademola Lookman, off you go. Over and over again. And I'm, by the way, I'm not saying that if Trent Alexander-Arnold had played, that would have been any better, by the way. But poor Nico Williams was just thrown out there to the Lions, basically. That guy would have gone to bed shitting himself about Lookman. He'd probably still seeing him now. Lookman, everywhere, it was all over him. Lookman's problem is he doesn't score. Once he gets there, he doesn't finish the chances, or his final pass doesn't feel good enough. Honestly, with more composure, he could have had a monster haul here, Lookman.
Are you like me in terms of as a Spurs fan? I'm glad that I have to play Fulham again this season.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm glad we got them out of the way twice.
The only thing to say about that is, as a Spurs fan, the majority of teams we played twice, I'm glad we ain't got to play again. And the majority we still got to play, I'm gutted we've still got to play. This was so good from Fulham. And then, of course, yeah, it gets backs to the wall towards the end, but you expect that. And then when they had to, Adebayo and particularly Anderson, outstanding. As I tweeted on after the game, Leon must have some astonishing centre-halves to let him go out on loan. Everybody will want to buy Anderson in the summer. Everybody. Honestly, I would not be surprised if Anderson was playing for Liverpool next year. Like, he's good enough. Good enough. He wouldn't like that high line, though, by the way.
I'm interested because I've been thinking on Wildcard about going to Emi Martinez and what have you. Fulham's fixtures, I'm happy to stick on Areola potentially until the end of the season. They've got a couple of tricky games in there, but against the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, those are the three trickiest games they've got to play. I still see as many clean sheets for them as I do for Villa. So Areola for me could potentially stay. If he does, I wouldn't double up on the defence. I don't feel not that in love with Fulham that I'd get two. If I don't stick with Areola, I will get one of the other defenders on wildcard. If I do stick with Areola, I probably won't. Defensively,
they're really good individually. But you can also tell they're extremely well coached. Like, to be honest, when they moved into a back five very late in the game, but they moved to a back four from when they played you weeks ago. I keep saying this. But the transition then to move, it was almost like you wouldn't even notice. Right? They've just sat in now. They've gone, we're going to finish this game in a five. They are very, very well coached by Scott Parker. That's genuinely obvious to me. You know what they do? They push up at the right times. I've spoken last week. I spoke about the space between Anderson, Adebayo, and the midfield being a bit more of a problem. They locked that up a little bit in this game. Liverpool were never got in that pocket like Dele Alli got in those pockets on Thursday and was unable to turn and get at Fulham, like where Tottenham's goal came from. Liverpool just never worked those situations. So the midfield just dropped off a little bit deeper. And then when they're defending the box, they squeeze really well. So the cross has got to be so good. Otherwise, you're just going to get caught offside all the time. They're brave in the way they defend. There's so much to like about them. And like you said at the top, I think most people look at them and think, I hope you stay up. Because they're good to watch as well at the top end. Almost frustrating that they don't score as many goals as they should, actually. They'll give City a proper game on Sunday. Liverpool, we're doing a Patreon pod tomorrow looking at Klopp's time at Dortmund. Which I haven't done any investigating for. But part of doing that is a bit of a nostalgia trip, but also to try and find out what went wrong there and are there any similarities. I don't think sacking him is the answer. I really, really don't, because of what he's achieved there. But he's getting to the stage, and as I've said before, I've been through this with Pochettino, where you start wondering, can it be recovered?
Go before it gets tarnished too much type situation. Go before it really gets...
Because Klopp won the Champions League and the league title, it's not a chance that it would get tarnished, to be honest. Even for Pochettino, in Tottenham fans' minds, he's not been tarnished, even though he didn't win anything. There's no tarnishing or anything like that. What he's done for that football club, I mean, look, he's been the best football manager for Liverpool, going back to the legends of Paisleys and Shankleys and stuff like that. But I wonder if it's recoverable. And I don't think we're going to get the answer to that now, probably till next season. when they're all fit again, and how
Yeah,
they
that's the
start
thing.
next
You've got to
season
give them a chance when they're fit.
to really know. And yeah, I agree with that. For me, sacking is not the right answer. However, it's interesting. One of the interesting comments I saw last night was if Mourinho had lost 6 home games in a row, Tottenham would be sacked. And I looked at that and I go, you're not wrong.
Hold on a second there, James. We've got a caller coming in. It's Kenny Dalglish, and he'd like to talk to you about your comment that Klopp's the best manager going back to the Shankly and Paisley and all the rest of them era.
I forgot about Kenny. Apologies.
It's okay. Let's talk about Man City, who Fulham do come up against at the weekend versus Manchester United 2-0. I'd got myself set up for a good Sunday evening of football, beer open, footstool up, and I think the word to describe, Manchester United fully deserve to win this game. Brave. You don't know how you go in and up against City or how you decide to attack the game. And having a penalty so early obviously helps dictate the tone. But I just thought they were so brave in the way that they pressed and they trusted what McTominay and Fred were doing, mopping up and cleaning up behind if City were able to get through. And those two, I thought particularly, had a really good game because they covered all the space, closing down, high work rate. And they were very, very brave. And even our friend Anthony Martial looked like he was, up for it a little bit and put a bit of a shift
Anthony
in.
Martial got laid in the week.
He did.
No doubt
He
about it. He was
definitely
really good. He was really good.
And you look at it, and prior to this game, I was looking forward to the Manchester United game for West Ham. I was thinking, you know what, the last couple of games, they've been flat. Everyone's just cussing them out. Nothing at all. Come on, bring it on, because I know defensively we're solid. And then they put in that performance. As a United fan, it's got to frustrate you to 1 week see absolute
That's a very fair point.
And then the week after see this.
You can't believe that team put performance in at Crystal Palace that had done that, because this was not a joke. Like United, that was a fair scoreline, 2-0. The end of the game. They thoroughly deserved to win, and deserved to win by the margin that they won by as well. They were so good from back to front. I don't want to talk about FPL too much with these two teams, because not too much I'm going to tell you that you don't already know, other than, look, Bruno is going to be probably the most popular captaincy this week. In terms of City, I don't think we can really talk about it till the Southampton game's gone and we know who's got the rest and who hasn't in terms of course, what might be of interest for Fulham. But I think it's probably more a case now, you're more thinking of selling than buying. And my advice generally would be only sell before the Fulham game for the likes of, if Foden plays tonight, it's probably, tomorrow night, it's like, oh no, he ain't going to play at Fulham again, that kind of thing. So you need the information from that game before you can understand what you're doing for the weekend. We want to talk about United's setup, because I think it's probably set a little bit of a template for what others might copy here. So we spoke yesterday on a Patreon pod that we said Guardiola's biggest regret would probably be not playing Kyle Walker. And it's because Kyle Walker is a specialist in terms of his recovery pace. Kyle has brain fart moments, but he is rapid. And he's been used to deal specifically with people like Aubameyang in the past. Against Arsenal in game week 5, I want to say. I mean, Kyle Walker played centre-half specifically to deal with Aubameyang's counter-attacking threat, basically. And United had this triple pace threat where Daniel James, we know final quality-wise, is not the best, but he's another one who's rapid. Rashford, when he gets up ahead of steam, good night, he's off. And Martial turned up like the Anthony Martial that most of us know is within that player. He didn't turn up as Lassalk. He turned up like Anthony Martial is going to do you over today. So City had the pace threat coming at them in each third of the pitch. And when I say Kyle Walker, he'll regret not playing him, it's not to say that he shouldn't have played Cancelo, who got caught out quite badly in the second half and has not had a bad game going back to even before the defeat to Tottenham in game week 9. But I think in hindsight, probably thinks, I wish I'd played Cancelo up against Dan James, because at least with Dan James, his final win product's not going to be as good. And I felt like particularly on that side, United utilised what Cancelo wanted to do and preyed on it. So Cancelo, we know in possession, wants to go into this kind of sitting midfield position alongside Rodri. Think back to the last Manchester derby when they played each other, and I was so scathing of Rodri and his performances, saying basically he needs Fernandinho to hold his hand. Now, since then, we've had the Gundogan explosion, the 4-1-4-1. Cancelo's gone into positions alongside Rodri when they've got the ball, and it's been great. Rodri weren't so clever on Sunday, and the reason he weren't so clever was because Cancelo could not get out of that space at right back. He was too worried about it, knowing I can't leave Rashford. Can't leave him, because you leave Rashford one-on-one against anybody, he's capable of doing you over. So City then didn't have that control in the central midfield areas. And United, what they did really well was they basically picked the same team that won at the Etihad last season, except Bruno Fernandes was in for Jesse Lingard. Now, I know what you think about Jay Lings, but it's a little bit of an upgrade. So if anything, the team was stronger than what played at the Etihad so well, remember last year when they could have been 3 or 4-0 up at half-time, actually. So Bruno's able to pick up the pockets against Rodri. He was on the ball more than you would expect a number 10 to be in the Etihad, and it was part of the knock-on of that pace threat up front. But then to do that well, your two central midfielders need to be aggressive, and so does your back four. And a lot of that's not about being aggressive in and out the ball. It's about how high you are. We've spoken a lot about this with Maguire and Lindelof and their nervousness about how high they are. That they don't like leaving the space in behind. But actually, ironically, and this is really interesting, Manchester City at the moment are not one of the best teams in this league in transition. Once counter-attacks are on, they don't react well. And if you think back to the great Centurions team and how quickly they'd get at you with like Leroy Sané and stuff, they just don't have that at the moment.
No, you're right. The
only real out-and-out pace threat they had in the game was Raheem Sterling. What it should have done was get Raheem Sterling, we've spoken about this before, get him away from Wan-Bissaka, because you just can't seem to beat him.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka did play very well.
I'd have been getting Raheem Sterling miles away from him, and I'd have just played a technical footballer out there. Like Foden would have given Wan-Bissaka more problem than Raheem Sterling did. It's not a criticism of Sterling. It's just the styles of the player. Wan-Bissaka, he's really happy with Sterling going at him. But because City didn't have that over-the-top pace, United were brave enough to actually play a higher line against City. Now, naturally, in the second half, once it goes 2-0, inevitably, you see less of the ball and you get very deep. Fine. But what won them the game was the template of basically playing a high 4-2-3-1 with pace in every third of the pitch in the attacking areas. So I was looking at the fixtures coming up, and you think, who else could play that way against City in coming game weeks? Fulham. Lookman left, Cavallero right, Madger up front, Loftus-Cheek in the hole like Fernandes. Now, quality-wise, we know it's a drop-off. They'll give City a proper game at the weekend. What they'll struggle to do, as well as United did on Sunday, was the bravery of the higher line. Because they're at their best, Anderson, Nader, when they protect their penalty area. And that might be key. If Fulham can be brave enough to play a higher line against City, I'm not joking, they could beat them at the weekend.
Interesting. So we've been talking for over an hour. We've got 3 games to go, and that includes Spurs and West Ham. We haven't even touched it, and everyone knows we rabbit on about them. So, Spurs 4, Crystal Palace 1.
Right.
Yeah, it was all right. That's it. It was a few moments of real good class from some top players. But the first half I felt was quite meh. You obviously got ahead.
It was.
But the second half of the first half, Crystal Palace started getting back into it. You started sitting in deep. Matt Doherty, I don't know, it was non-existent on the pitch. So anything down that left-hand side I thought was a bit of a threat. And you could see the goal coming. And it felt so typical that no shots on target, first attempt, Benteke header, in acres of space in the penalty area, let's be honest. And Sanchez and Alderweireld were nowhere close to him. Free header, what's he going to do? He's going to score, isn't he? And you look at it and you think, yeah, Spurs being Spurs. But you came out the second half, Kane does what Kane does, Bale scored again, and then you did feel like, you know what, Palace don't have enough to turn this around now that you'd got a 2-goal lead. But it wasn't a fluid attacking performance where you'd pen them in and it was attack after attack and attempt after attempt, you know. But you did more than what you needed, and 4-1's 4-1, right?
It was about right in the end. It's just interestingly on the Benteke goal, just listening to you speak, I was thinking about how we spoke when we threw away the lead at Palace in December. And I spoke after that game about the massive problems of Tottenham continuing to allow crosses into the penalty box, and saying the previous games we'd had City, Chelsea and Arsenal going, that's fine, cross it in all day long. They can edit out, but don't invite the pressure against a side like Palace, who's got a player like Benteke. And to be fair, it's the only cross I can remember in the game that come in. And they could have had him very well marked, and he might still have done that, actually, because it was just perfect for him to get out and power it. So I didn't have too much issues with that. It was more the play before the cross in allowing the cross, not enough pressure in the ball in the centre of the pitch. It felt like, and to be fair, Mourinho admitted this after the game, it felt a bit like, oh, don't concede before half time, let's go in at 1-0. We hadn't played that great in the first half. The goal came from a press, which I can't believe we scored a goal from a press. I was so stunned. And that's what Lucas brings to the team. Him and
You're
Lamella,
being sarcastic there, just for the listeners that don't get it.
Massively.
I think,
we can't
to be
press.
fair, Lucas, I felt like was your best player in the first half because of the pressing. And it wasn't the first time that he managed to nick the ball and start an attack. You did have a couple of other situations where it came from Lucas Moura's pressing.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Suj, because interestingly, just having a little glance through my Twitter timeline at half times, a lot of people giving Lucas stick, actually.
I thought he was good.
About his passing ability, because there's a theme amongst Tottenham Twitter that he always gives the ball away and stuff. But what he does, and Lamella does it as well, is this. They can actually press those two players. And
if you put Lucas on a pitch, you're going to get a shift out of him. Lucas, you'll always get a shift out of him. Yeah. The question on everyone's tip of their tongue at the moment is Bale versus Son. Bale again coming in with 2 goals, right place, right time for the first, and good finish. I think it's not the foregone conclusion that it was a few weeks ago that Son's the obvious pick now, and Bale is that little bit cheaper. For you said you're going to wait until Friday and hear more from Mourinho before you decide what direction you're going to go in. Well, you already own Son, but whether or not Bale is worth it.
Well, we've got a Europa League game on Thursday, and if Gareth Bale plays 90 minutes in it, I'd be a bit concerned. That's more my point. If Gareth Bale plays half hour or an hour again, then there's no reason to not think that he won't start at Arsenal. But I'd want that information first. I wouldn't, right now, at this moment in time, I say exactly what I said on our podcast yesterday. I wouldn't put him at more than 80% start at Arsenal. So by all means, buy him. There's a long way to go. Now, it doesn't just, you can't just factor in the fitness, which is obviously coming back. I mean, his second goal is a perfect illustration that the fitness is down there. Comes inside, spreads the ball on the left, doesn't hesitate, bang, he's in the box. Not admiring the pass now. It's just little things like that tells you the fitness is now there. He's not just admiring the pass, he's going and getting to danger areas and hurting people. Let's be honest. In the 2 games, the 2 home games, in fact, let's include the Fulham game. He's had 4 shots, basically, if you exclude a free kick he had against Fulham from about 80 yards. He's had 4 shots and scored 4 goals, is reality. Now, 3 of those goals is because he's got in very, very dangerous positions, and that's really important to state. Whereas, actually, in these last few games, admittedly, Heung-min Son hasn't. My concern about Bale on Sunday isn't about Bale, it's about Kieran Tierney and what he'll do at left-back for Arsenal, and Mourinho will be shitting himself about it. Now, Bale will work in and do all those things, but if you got Gareth Bale coming back into the positions like Steven Bergwijn did when we beat Arsenal at home, you might as well not play Gareth Bale. It's a waste of time. So it depends on the setup. What I would do is leave him high. Kane, Bale, Son, cheap. And you take a chance that just when we win the ball back, make them worry about what we're going to do rather than us worry about what they're going to do. Because if we leave those 3 higher, they'll shit themselves as well. So that's what I would do. But what will Mourinho do? I don't know. Hopefully he'll do that, but he might just revert to type. We can never be too sure, can we?
Yeah.
And that's why I would not, no consideration for me to buy him personally. But anybody else who wants to, yes. I think if you were buying Bale or Son at this minute in time, or if I would buy Son. But on Friday, the answer to that might be Bale, depending on Thursday night against Zagreb.
Yeah. Chelsea 2, Everton 0. We're into the Monday night games yesterday night. Good performance from Chelsea again, but also not the worst performance from Everton. I did feel like Chelsea controlled the game, passed the ball around well. without creating the most amount of chances, but they did control the game particularly well, and they did mix it up a little bit. Kai Havertz getting a start and what have you, which is not regular. Hudson-Odoi back in the team, but Everton, I felt like physically handled them quite well. They've got a big, strong defence now, haven't they? In Holgate and Godfrey and what have you. I felt physically Everton did particularly well, but Chelsea did end up bossing the game and probably did deserve to win 2-0. If Timo Werner can learn to find the back of the net, fuck me, Chelsea will be good. Fuck me, because I think now there's absolutely no doubt in my mind about Chelsea finishing top 4.
I don't really care about these two. I want to talk about Harry Kane's goal.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was a fantastic finish. Hits it, top corner. What else there's to say?
I think you're right, and I think the majority of other people would be looking at it at the moment going, if someone was to drop out of that top 4, the field would actually probably be for Leicester a little bit, maybe. Considering obviously don't play 29, then it's City and 30. There's an opportunity for other teams to maybe make ground up, and they have a really tough final 3, Leicester, like they had last year, similar. United, Chelsea, Tottenham, where if they're not clear, they'll shit themselves again, quite possibly, if it comes round and they're not clear. And obviously they've got injuries at the moment. I think if they've got players fit, I wouldn't have any questions about them actually. But while they've got a few players missing, there's question marks over them. Timo Werner, if I owned him, I'd captain him this week. What a brilliant captaincy option away to Leeds, honestly.
I started him. I started the season with him, and I always have a soft spot for him, but I can't bring myself to buy him.
Oh, I won't be doing it either. I'm just saying, if he was already sitting there, I'd put the armband on him.
There's a point where he's going to pop off, man, Timo Werner. He's getting in chances. He's got the ability. There's no doubt about it. But yeah.
There's every chance he'll pop off. Should they have the tie against Atletico overturned where they ended up going out? From game week 30, West Brom, Crystal Palace, Brighton. It's a great little trio to go, I'm gonna have some of this. The problem is, I'm not sure if we were any clearer for fixtures like that, understanding who and won't play. There was a lot made yesterday of obviously Rudiger being left out. So is Azpilicueta now the only nailed player at centre-back? I don't know the answer to that, because I think quite conceivably Zuma and Rudiger could play either side of Christensen / Thiago Silva.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say any of them's nailed.
Yeah, Mason Mount. Zuma went down injured, and it was Thiago that was the one that was warming up, not Rudiger. So does that mean Thiago's the favoured choice? It's there's got a plethora of riches there.
I think Christensen as a wide centre-half is probably not ideal, particularly if it was left side. Him and Thiago are really suitable in terms of the protection that the two aggressive centre-backs give them either side, basically. So ideally, it's one of Silva, Christensen, rather than both. So Christensen, I think, is 4.7 or so. I wouldn't go anywhere near that, personally, although he's playing really well. And they are as a whole defensively, right? Mason Mount was also left out. He's the one who we'd all decided after Liverpool. Yep, he's definitely nailed. Although an interesting point on that is he's suspended for the Champions League game against Atletico. And I think what this was Tuchel wanted to have a look at how they played without him, actually, because it's become so important to them ahead of that particular game. It also makes him almost certainly an absolute lock to play this weekend. So if you're looking for 1 week punt, set pieces against Leeds, etc., could be interesting.
As much as he was left out, when he did come on, I mean, he gave him energy, created chances, running in, created a couple of chances for Werner. So even in that 15, 20 minutes, he could cause problems. So yeah, Mount is really looking interesting at the moment.
For Everton, I can't shake the feeling that I don't particularly see them as top 4 candidates. They very much are. But in an odd way, I'd fancy your team more than Everton at the moment. If you said to me now one of the two is going to finish top 4, I think I'd back you rather than them.
I probably agree with you, but I think Carlo Ancelotti, you can't rule him out. You can't rule him out.
I think it's because of Ancelotti they are where they are, basically.
Correct.
I think defensively they've improved, but to be honest, by the end they were a bit lucky to get away with 2-0. Summed up by Jordan Pickford giving away a penalty, but also making some brilliant saves in the game. Rather sums him up as a performance. James Rodriguez has been nearly fit for a couple of weeks now.
And they need him back.
To be honest, it's becoming an imbalance problem. a little bit where I've spoken about this before. I always use the Van der Vaart comparison. You end up shoehorning the player into the team because he's so good. You have to find a space for him because his creativity levels are so high. But it's a little bit of imbalance. And the diamond system or the 4-3-3 that they used at the start of the season works best. They feel a bit flat creativity-wise for me when Richarlison plays through the middle with Calvert-Lewin. It's not criticism because Richarlison obviously has been scoring goals recently and doing really well. And he probably had Everton's best chance in this game as well. But I just feel when him and Calvert-Lewin are right up the top, I look at them sometimes when teams sit off them, I think, who's going to create for you? And that would be the one concern for me if I'm looking
Gylfi?
Nah, it's gone, mate. It's gone. From an open play perspective, it's gone, in my opinion. And from a perspective of thinking of maybe captaining a Calvert-Lewin this weekend, that lack of creativity is a little bit concerning, actually.
Yeah.
I just know that Calvert-Lewin against an opposition like that, he's probably going to get chances in and around the 6-yard box, and he's capable of converting them. Yeah. There's nothing I've seen on eye test or stats or anything that would suggest that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a good captaincy choice this week. It's just, Suj, perhaps a little bit of want versus should, maybe, from my part.
Lovely. Let's wrap up the games, James. Let's talk about West Ham 2, Leeds 0. A decent home win for West Ham last night and a clean sheet. I don't know about you, James, but I really felt like it was a copy-paste of the first fixture at Ellen Road, where Leeds dominated the ball. But when we nicked it off them and took it away and attacked their back line, we created chances. And that's not to say Leeds couldn't maybe have got something out of the game. It started so heart in mouth with the Helder Costa offside. That's another one of those offsides where you're like, what are you measuring here? Because it was so narrow. Fair play, the ball that went off was off, which was proven. But we could easily have been like 1 or 2-0 down. And then to go up the other end, get the penalty and be like, hang on a second here, where they've dominated the ball and possession and had the ball in the back of our net. We're winning 1-0 here. And from then on in, I'll be honest with you, I didn't doubt that we were going to win that game.
No, you definitely shouldn't have from 2-0. Well, I think you played better at Ellen Road than you played last night. Actually.
We probably did yesterday. We did probably play better at Ellen Road. I thought Leeds, for all their possession, and Rafinha was tricky and he did create chances and it just never felt like they were amazing chances.
Really?
Whereas when, I just didn't feel like, you know what?
I think you were pissed by this point, mate.
Quite possibly.
How have they not scored in that game, mate? Honestly.
Well, should we see what the XG says? Let's see XG. But the thing is, when what am I googling? XG West Ham.
Does Vladimir Sufal from within his own 6-yard box nearly scoring an own goal? Does that get added to XG? Because I'm going to suspect it probably doesn't. And that ended up being his best effort.
XG from yesterday: West Ham 2.35.
Yeah.
2.38. Sorry, Leeds 1.35.
All right, now knock off.
We had a penalty.
Yeah,
we had a penalty.
And the rebound.
Okay.
All right, knock them two off.
It's funny because when you look at games, you have to take into account the situation of the game as well. How West Ham would have played had we not been 2-0 up or what have you. Would we have attacked it a little bit more? But when the ball was going into Lingard, Benrahma or Antonio, the number of times we turned their centre-backs and full-backs, like if the ball went into one of them and they were able to spin off and get and attack the Leeds line, I did think we caused them a lot of trouble. I mean, it was an entertaining game though, end to end, good fun.
Leeds are playing, it normally is.
Yeah, right? And to come away with a 2-0 win, I think it was decent. And I think, perhaps I didn't quite see it in the way because the likes of Declan Rice, Lingard, even Moyes after the game did say we didn't play particularly well. I thought we did okay. It's a difficult game against Leeds.
So do I. I mean, to be honest, when you're 2-0 up against Leeds, it's difficult to stay on the front foot because they keep coming at you. It was interesting. I was thinking, we always say that they don't change the way they play, and why should they? But interestingly, when they're in positions like this and they're 2-0 down, you think the same thing. Think, well, they'll keep playing the same way. But then, this hasn't worked for 70 minutes. What are you now going to do that's different? They have, in summary, some players, Leeds, who are not good enough and are being hidden by not being good enough, in my opinion, by the all-action system that they use and the way they play. People like Tyler Roberts, Matthias Click.
Click.
Not good enough. Honestly, not good enough. And that's the next step for Leeds to push on to be someone who, rather than hope, and they've had an amazing season, can possibly expect to finish in the top half next season. He's adding to the quality. And I'm sure that they will. I feel like I say it every time they lose, not a disaster, move on. And it is a bit like that because the game could have gone in a certain way where if it had gone 2-1, I would have fancied them to equalise, to be honest. Because they were at it.
Maybe.
They missed
the problem is that every time we had a set piece, they shit themselves. And
they missed some
that's the
unbelievable
other problem.
chances, man. Patrick Bamford's XG must have been higher than what most teams will have on an average weekend, mate. How has he not scored in that game? Rafinha's creation. I bought him in Sky Fantasy yesterday, so I got my first experience as an owner. And I can tell you, it is a laughable and brilliant experience owning Rafinha as a fantasy asset. He's the one still, Rafinha. He's the priority one, I think. Although, interestingly, my intention at the moment, my intention prior to this game week was to think that I'll get to game week 29 and I'll take a -4 and I'll get Dallas, Rafinha and Bamford. I'll go to treble Leeds. But Fulham are putting me off that for 29, right? What still interests me about it is the fact that Leeds play Sheffield United then in game week 30 before wildcard. So there is going to be strong interest still in Leeds assets over the next couple of weeks. What are you looking
Patrick Bamford, 0.83 was his XG.
Let's talk about
another player, though, who has to now be on the radar for people. 6.1 million. He's jumped up from the 5.8 that he was at when it was only 6 weeks ago that he joined West Ham. 6 games, 4 goals, 2 assists. Jesse Lingard.
Ineligible this week.
100% ineligible this week.
You're not buying him now, are you?
For 29 and then on wildcard ahead of Thomas Souček or what have you. I think he's almost you got to. Yeah, Jesse Lingard's going to become template. His ownership, if it crept up above 30-35%, very quickly wouldn't surprise me.
For those who missed Declan Rice's interview after the game, it's well worth a look, particularly the one on Sky. Because genuinely, he made me laugh. I thought it was really good.
He's a good character like that, yeah.
He's definitely on the penalties, by the way. Declan Rice, not Jesse Lingard. And that was it was a really good interview, actually. But then Souček, look back at Dawson's goal. If Dawson don't score, Souček scores. It's simple.
The two
as
of them, every set piece was trouble for Leeds, and they just can't defend them.
There was also when Souček hit the post as well. I mean, him personally, not the ball.
Yeah,
he was inches away from flicking that in as well. So, all right, I'll probably start him at Man United actually, the way it stands. Souček, that is not Jesse Lingard.
Me too.
He won't be there, and he'll be a big miss for you. By the way, I liked what I saw from Ben Rama yesterday.
You can tell he's carrying the weight of not having scored a goal on his shoulders, though. A lot.
Creative threat. He's definitely a good player.
Neat and tidy, good dribbler. But he's carrying the weight of not scoring a goal. Once he gets that monkey off his back, I think he'll play with a little bit more freedom. That was the games, James. Just looking at how long, 1 hour, 23 minutes. We can do a couple of Twitter questions. You want to tell everybody what they've got left for the rest of the week while I have a look at the questions that we have?
I shall. Sky Fantasy podcast tomorrow. Thursday's Clash of Correspondence. Yes, is Arsenal versus Tottenham. Adam Pritchard and Ricky Saunders will be joining me. I will be streaming on Friday, although that might get moved to Thursday night, but I will confirm via Twitter at Planet FPL Pod. Patreon podcast this week from Intermediate Tier. We did our Q&A yesterday. We have our Tottenham podcast today. We'll be looking forward to that North London derby a little bit, and I'll be talking a bit more about Spurs' performance against Palace and maybe a bit more West Ham against Leeds. Tomorrow, we're going to be taking a nostalgia look at Borussia Dortmund's period under Jurgen Klopp, what went so well, and if there's any reasons why it went wrong, because one of the frequent questions I get is, what's wrong with Liverpool? And I'm not sure if there's a science, but I want to find out if there is any correlation to what happened at Dortmund. Thursday, we've got a North London Derby A to Z quiz as well. So it's going to be a North London Derby special on Thursday. And Friday, we'll have our differential show, Game Week 28 preview show. As ever, if you want to support us on Patreon, do it for the content, not because you're going to become a better FPL manager. We're shit at it.
Listen, my rank is 1.15 million. Let's answer it. I've got 3 or 4 questions highlighted here, James. We'll answer these 3, and then we will wrap it up. I think we've done a fairly good job of covering off all the games and options within the teams and what have you. Let's start with Amber Redmond, who says, do you think you would be a good spy? And what about your co-host? I don't know. She's mentioning Bielsa.
Would I be a good spy?
I think I would be. Because I'm good at deadpan, so I can wind people up where they're like, I don't know if this guy's being serious or not. I'm pretty good at that. So, yeah, I reckon I could convince people of things that that I don't believe or what have you. So, yeah, I reckon I'd be a good spy.
Really wish I'd read the question.
I think you'd be all right as well. Do you know why? Because you're the least suspicious person ever that I would think would be a spy. If I met you down the pub having a pint watching the game, I'm like, that geezer's not a spy. He's a good old football fan. Yeah, I think I'd be very unsuspicious.
Let's go with yes.
Yeah. We've got a question here from Javo, who is a West Ham fan. And this is an interesting question. What do West Ham need to do to keep Declan Rice, aside from winning trophies, obviously, but that's not in the imminent future? Can we keep him long term? He's immense. I just don't think it's down to what West Ham do to be able to keep him. It's obviously other clubs, like who comes in with what offers and what have you.
Down to price tag, right? If West Ham keep banding about 100 million, I'm not sure anyone will pay it. Is the reality?
Yeah, but then you get. I mean, look, yeah, no one doubts his character. He's not the type of player that's going to agitate for a move or what have you. But if the club get to do dumb stuff like price him out of a move, and the likes of United or a title-winning contender team come in, then it's not fair on the club to try and price him out of a move, although he is under contract. And at that point, will he be the same chirpy chappy that he is? Will he then start throwing his toys out the pram? Which I think he probably would. I just don't think it's in our control whether or not we're able to keep him. I do, for a player who so clearly is too good for us and is destined for better things, he just gets on with it, which I respect and love a lot about him. He doesn't ever talk about, I need to go and win trophies or I would want to go to another club or whatever. He just gets on with it.
Worst thing Declan Rice could do at the moment is sign a new contract. The more he keeps signing contracts, the more West Ham have the power to keep him, right? Once it gets to like 2 years left of the contract, then the player starts taking the advantage of the situation where he knows he's got the club in the corner, because the club don't want to lose out on the 80 or 90 million or whatever he would cost. So they end up having to sell him. So I don't know how long he's got left on said contract, to be honest, Suj, but that's the worst thing that he'll do. He should keep his options open. There's nothing wrong with doing that as an individual. It'll come round. I think eventually he'll want to go. You would think.
Yeah.
You would think
100%.
Especially if his mate Mason Mount does come calling for him again, because they love each other, don't they? Bless them. Yeah,
they do. I think, to be fair, West Ham are already planning for life after Declan Rice, because we extended Mark Noble for another year. So if Declan Rice leaves in the summer, no problem. We've got a replacement all lined up, haven't we? They're giving him loyalty and all the rest of it. This is so that you can stay another year, which I don't mind, to be fair, because the amount of young players in and around, to have a pro in and around the squad like Mark Noble, it's not like he's earning mega money, and he is Mr. West Ham. Keep him in and around there definitely will help. Declan Rice's contract expires in the summer of 2024. He's fucking tied up for a little while, so no problem there.
But then that's the point. So now it's absolutely fine. It's no problem. But assuming that no one's going to pay the money this summer and he stays next summer, then next year with 2 years left on the contract becomes an issue.
Starts getting an issue, correct. And last question of the show, James, completely non-football related. Rohan says, what's your favourite cocktail, or are you guys too cool and just drink beer? I think cocktails are cooler than beer, aren't they? For me, it's simple. Caipirinha. Love a caipirinha. Mojito, vodka Collins. Those three. Clear spirits for me.
By the time I have the cocktail, I'm already gone, right? If it's got to the stage where I'm having a cocktail, I've already drunk too much. We was in Mallorca a couple of years ago, and I had this cocktail after England beat Tunisia. Jesus Christ, mate. This thing was about laced with absinthe and all sorts of other stuff. I can't remember what it was called, but wow. Yeah. Wow. That thing would have fucked you by itself if you hadn't had a drink before. Favorite. I'm too fucked to know by the time I get that point. I'm always been a fan of Sex on the Beach, as you know. Why would you know?
Yeah, why would I? I'm a Caipirinha, vodka Collins, or mojito guy, definitely for me. And I don't mind a cheeky gin and tonic as well. I'm looking forward to getting pissed with you, James.
You can't call a gin and tonic a fucking cocktail.
No, it's not a cocktail.
I like a vodka and tonic.
Clear spirits are the ones for me. But like I said, James, looking forward to getting pissed with you soon in the summer or whenever we get around to it. It'll be a good laugh sitting in the studio or office or whatever, having a few beers. We'll get Manchild pissed up as well at the end of the season party, if and when it ever happens.
Lock it in.
That's a wrap. That's the pod. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you do as listeners. Do have a listen back to yesterday's Football Index pod if you are interested in that. It was quite a good listen and talks about a different gambling product and what's happened there. Definitely interesting to have a listen to. We'll be back at you tomorrow with more content, which is Sky Fantasy Football, Clash of the Correspondents before the North London Derby Thursday, as James mentioned, and again Friday with James's live stream. Stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man. Child.